I was able to understand it.
Okay. So I think we talked about architecture and we just seen in ESY system uh, how exactly to identify. I think we'll just practically try to understand more by looking at the system. So before that, if an installation as such, we need to have some handy tools. Uh, I think I was just introducing to this. So previously, most of the developments used to happen initially in Eclipse, and still some of the customers might be using Eclipse. But one important thing we need to understand is based on the tool you're using, what kind of limitations you can have as such. So currently, the recommended version is SAP Business Application Studio. So from 2021 onwards, it is still not very stable product. So it's a recent migration, it's going on. So previously, SAP Web IDE is the go-to tool for SAP Fiori applications, etc. And SAP has started adopting Business Hub Studio very, from last 2 months officially it has recognized. So 6 months back onwards it was there, but only 2 months back, officially it stopped support for Web ID and it said the next version of development environment is Business Application Studio. So now if any applications which fall in the UFI 1.7 onwards version. So when I say the framework version, so currently, I think yesterday there was a new update 1.88 was released, and now this is 1.87. So this version, if above 1.7, any libraries if you wanted to consume, only it's supported in either Web IDE or in Business Hub Studio. So for all the latest stuff like Fiori 3 features etc., if you wanted to use etc., then Business Hub Studio is the only go-to product. So if customer is had only Eclipse and they wanted to do build etc., the version supported is only till 1.6. So we need to clearly understand that they are not totally absolute, because SAP as a phased manner it still gives some kind of support etc. So officially what is said for Eclipse, we are not going to any future support, we are not going to give, and only till 1.6. If existing customers are there, they can, if still they are on running on old a front end server as such, then you can use as such. So and one more thing, like Fiori 2 Web ID was the go-to tool. So if some of the projects which were built in Web ID, so suppose if you have built for a customer has built one application in Web ID, and today they are trying to modify that particular application, then ideally the support was in Web ID. So there was some migration tools were also released by SAP. So using migration tools, we can actually try to migrate the old projects to Business Office Studio environments. There are like new files, setup files are available. So to meet those things, we will follow these standards. So ideally, if you're starting any fresh developments, so you straight away use Business Hub Studio. So there will be no issues. You'll have all the latest libraries available, and all the tools and etc. will be provided by SAP. Right. So officially Eclipse is stopped support from September 2020 onwards. They stopped the support. So if you at all any customer if environment they are using Web ID also, it's good to start doing with Business Hub Studio, because again later if you have to migrate again etc., it's a tedious job. So that is about uh, UFA tools as such. And like I said, if you're already having an account etc., make sure you're having single account in SAP. So SAP, on the SAP website we can just create our one account, SAP account, because we have lots of trial accounts, and all the trial accounts when we access, so if they are linked to one ID, then it will be easy to um, see through all the instances etc. So I think you are having ESY system, so you can use the same email ID which you have registered. So the same ID will do. So that they use as PID. So official accounts we have SID. Now in trial accounts we have PID. So
Mm-hmm.
starting with P series we'll have. So we just have to have access to that ID. So you can just make a note of that ID and the password, because we'll frequently use this particular ID to log into various systems, etc. Now if you see the ESFI launchpad, etc., so we generally use. So it's good if you have handy to that particular ID. So the trial, so you need not to worry at all. Automatically 30 days it gets expired or some cases, and you have to reactivate etc. So now for Business Application Studio, you tried to get access to it, or you're yet to get access?
Yeah, I have the access to it.
Okay, so if you have it, so one quick thing we need to understand is we need to add the destination of ESY, and we have to link our Business Hub Studio to with the ESY system. So let's try to check quickly that part. So now if once we have the Business Studio and once we have the ESY system, so we have to start linking the both. So one way to link this is, always if you're an on-premise system, you are trying to link it. So you have to use SAP connector. So on-premise to cloud connector we have to use because Business Studio is a cloud tool. So it's a subscription model where there is no, now Visual Studio Code is the local version and Business Studio currently what we are accessing is completely cloud-based. So all it is maintained in business technology platform. Now Cloud Cockpit they're calling as BTP. It's just a rebranding access they have done recently. So if you bookmark this particular cockpit, etc., when you select as enter to trial account. So this there are like three types of names they would be used. Uh, Previously it was called SAP Cloud Platform. Okay, because uh, it doesn't actually suit that name because uh, outside cloud platforms what they're providing is different. This is actually cloud platform itself, but it's very confusing because SAP has S4 HANA cloud and it has Ariba cloud. All the success factors, all are cloud products. Okay, so it gives a perception that whether it has all the cloud services or not as such. So there's a lots of jargons out there. So to make it simplified, so what they said is this is just a platform. Platform is it provides all the developer tools, etc. And you can host all the servers, you can host all the database, etc. And you can monitor everything. So it's a developer complete tool set, etc. Everything you will have it. So they rebranded as business technology platform BTP. And this is same as they call it as Cloud Foundry because all you are seeing is this is open source based on Cloud Foundry is a open source stack as such. So using which this whole thing has been redesigned. SAP is using Cloud Foundry to provide this whole services, etc. So this is about cloud platform in short. And so So in this now even there are like certain changes are being happening. So if you have already one account, so make sure you're selecting, this particular region as Frankfurt. Some of the services are not available in different regions. So in the trial account, so you can probably, if you're already having, make sure just you're having, Frankfurt region as a region and AWS. Previously, we used to have a new environment. So one more step to understand is I don't think any customers have really aggressively are using this particular cloud product. It is very, in the starting stage. SAP cloud users are very pretty much, very short if you say. So they used to promote their own uh, new environment is nothing but SAP is maintaining all the cloud data centers, etc. So if you see here now currently it is being used, we are using Amazon Web Services, AWS is being used. So the all the data whatever we are creating, it is actually getting stored in AWS. So SAP is just providing the services, the platform environment, but all are hosted on AWS. Previously it used to be hosted on SAP's own environment, that is new environment. So this is SAP environment. So it stopped trying to maintain its own cloud space. Reason being is it's again it's you are just repeating which is already available. So it I think I'm not sure whether they are still continuing. They'll develop and they'll product release some other product. But as on date, new environment is they stopped this providing service or support to new environment. So SAP is focusing on on building the business applications and not on building the cloud infrastructure. So they have moved away from that area and they always recommend to go with either any of the, if you are using Google Cloud or anything, use any of the service provider to store, like just like how in the ERP space they recommended to go with Oracle DB. Use SAP, but you can use Oracle DB. Now in this case also they are trying to use leverage existing cloud providers. You can use Azure Cloud, you can use IBM Cloud, any cloud you can use for that matter. So the reason being is they wanted to concentrate on building solutions, not on maintaining the infrastructure. Right. This is about quick about now once we come to here. So if you here you're able to see what are the limitations, etc. So advantages we can scale up easily here. So system landscape, etc. We can check and we can see in trial account. I think there are some limitations on number of applications which we can deploy and can be active. So every 20 minutes it will be auto turned off. So for trial accounts, and rest of the things could be same. It is like as good as full-fledged account as such. And one important thing what we try to create today is we'll create something called dev spaces. So dev space is a new concept which is created along with Business Supply Studio, where each of our environment, just like you can name it any name, SAP dev spaces. What they do is like you can create like how we have quality I mean dev environment quality and sandbox and production environment as such. So similarly we can create in the cloud as well different dev spaces. So we can create multiple dev spaces, and kind of application you're building also the tools and plugins you can create separate environment, so that they are trying to give as an option to select while using the environment itself. So we are just going to see how to create this dev spaces in cloud, and then we'll try to in business application also we'll just start with one environment. So the moment you click on it, you have to note this particular API endpoint. So in order to link this particular ID to business studio, one we have to create a dev space for any project, etc. And then um, we have to create a destination to link our OData service ESY system. So in case of cloud, we can just define a destination. Else, we have to use a cloud connector to for on-premise system connection. These all a basis will handle it. So setting up the things, etc. But in our case, we have to at least understand what could be the missing part. If you are not able to connect or link any particular backend system. On-premise, we have to use SAP Cloud Connector to integrate on-premise system to this particular platform. And third part is in Business Application Studio, we have to set API endpoint. When I say API endpoint, so now all the apps, what are we are building it, so they have to be again redeployed to cloud, right? So what we'll do is we'll build an application and we'll try to deploy into the cloud. So for deploying, we have to have access to the endpoint. So that endpoint is nothing but this particular endpoint. So your instance of PID, whatever you have logged in, could be uniquely identified using this particular API endpoint. So we'll just use this API endpoint at later point, and then here you have to create spaces. So you can just click on create space and you can give any name. So it may not be exactly. So in this case, I'll try to give as dev space, and you can provide restrictions as well, whether anybody can manage this or only few people can manage, etc. So these roles, etc., we can create under left side. You have security tab. So you have users. So you can create one user and you can assign one role as well, whether he's a manager, etc. So SAP ships with default roles. So you can for now you can just select tick all and just you can create dev space, quality and protection. So three instances just create. So it will create this structure in this way. In this case, I have multiple dev spaces. So what we'll try to do is all our applications when we try to deploy it, we'll try to deploy into dev, and then we'll try to see how we can flow through quality, etc. in that way. So this is one way of organizing. So you're free to organize in any way. So now we try to create one dev space here. So once you have this ready, then we'll move on to destinations part. On the left side, we have connectivity tab. So under connectivity, you have to select destinations. So like I'll just share if keep this handy, or the tutorials as well you can follow. So both are the same. So this is always we have to keep it handy, because some of the parameters, if they are missing, we'll not be able to actually use these particular services properly in our environment. So it's always good to have handy this particular screenshot. Okay. So in this case, I have already made an entry. So when you're trying to add any OData service, new system, now in this case, we have ESV system. Tomorrow, if you want to access some CRM system, so you can just create or import again existing destination. So you can create a new destination, or you can, replicate this particular as a new copy, and you can start modifying it. Now in this case, I'll just see if it is in some other system, ES6 as such. Okay, so your type should be as there could be different ways, but currently OData service we are accessing through HTTP channel, so you can select as HTTP, and you just have to give the prefix of the service. So you need not to give the whole service URL. So you can just give the service URL which has which ends with just .com. So this is how you'll have if you are having any OData service. So if you see the OData service, etc. So you have full path. So we need not to follow the full path. Some cases you may not have this particular proxy masking as such. You might have just the IP, server IP as such. So if it starts with SAP, that's where you have to stop adding the further URL as such. So you can just stop at this particular endpoint. So once you give the URL here, so which destination system we are trying to access, you can select proxy as internet and authentication if you have any single sign-on, etc. So like we said yesterday, so there could be different types of authentication. So these are like with various other authentication mechanisms which SAP supports. If you have client certificate, etc., automatically it can be signed on. And certain cases, you have authorization token, etc. This is the one your Azure will use. This is like a token exchange. So based on token exchange, Azure Active Directory will generally do single sign-on. So there are like other ways how the authentication can be handled. So there are like, so in this case, you can set as basic authentication, and you can use your the saved previously I have asked to save, right? So you can just use those particular ESY credentials here. And this is very basic important because if you are make sure if you are not having multiple accounts, so if you are having multiple accounts, then make sure whatever ID you are using here, we are going to use same ID password credentials in your Business Hub Studio as well. And select new property here and try to add the fields which I have given in this screenshot. So you can follow same. So HTML5 dynamic, there is a property called dynamic. Then you have to, some of the properties are not available in the drop down. You have to manually add it. So that's the reason you have to refer to this particular snapshot.
Mm.
So here, if you see, you'll not find HTML5 dynamic as such. So a dynamic destination. So you have to add this particular property. SAP platform also not available. You have to add manually. Rest of the properties are available. So just make sure that we are setting it. So Web ID enabled still, though it is Business Studio, the keyword is Web ID enabled only. So Web ID enabled. So should we allow the hit to access through Web ID? Yes, we say. And should we be able to connect to the gateway system? Yes, we have to say gateway. And how we are using the channel, we are using OData via ABAP. So we are not using core data service, etc. Right? We are using traditional OData service in this case. So we just select as OData underscore ABAP. Platform as ABAP and client as what are client ESY currently it is 002. So if you have different client, you have to just change the client. And just HTML5 dynamic destination, like for all the HTML5 applications, is it the same node we have to use as such? We are saying if there could be multiple OData services, and for all the OData services in ESY system, this is the destination we are saying. So just set this to true. So these are the basic properties for any OData service. Whenever you are registering these properties, you have to keep it handy. Okay. If anything changes in this case, also we can always refer to help.sap.com, and there we'll have the latest changes in maintaining destination, etc. There could be some changes coming in this space because web ID names could be changed to BAS. As of now, nothing got changed. Either in the drop down, you should be able to see the new values. If you do not see as such, also I think now we are having values, some of the new values as such. So these change names could change because web ID is now replaced with BAS. This name could change. So whenever it modifies, your service may not work. Just make sure that you're just correcting that particular naming convention as such. So that is the only change could come in this space. So when we save it, we get an option to test the service as well. So you can just do check connection. So it will prompt you with an error, but that is you can ignore it. So it says like connection is established and response is redirected. So it doesn't redirect anything. But if as long as it says the connection established, that means your property is correct. If it says connection failed or established meant failed, that means some of the either typo error or it could be any error in this particular properties, right? Or your authentication might have failed. So these are the things, some of the things which we have to make sure are properly maintained, right? So now we have established a connection, and whenever you wanted to save a copy, you can just export it, and every time you can modify this as well. Now I have created one more entry in this case, so I can remove it as well. I'll just remove for now because I already have a copy. So this is how we maintain destination. So this is done. So we have created one dev space in cloud. We created one ESV system. We have OData service. We have just linked it. So these two are done. So next step is setting an endpoint in Business Studio. So this one we have to do. Okay. Let's see how to set this particular endpoint. Now here we have to previously it used to be an instance and subscriptions. Now it is moved to a service marketplace. All the services will be available here. There are like lots of SAP services SAP is offering, and some of them are really good as well. So most frequently used services are previously we used to have Launchpad's portal service. Now that it has been two versions were introduced. So two services we'll be using throughout our accesses. One is Business Application Studio, and another is Launchpad service and Translation Hub service as well. So here you can type SAP Business Application Studio. So if you are here, I think you already activated. So now there is a slight change in the approach for you. If you already have it, just you have to click on create, or you can select this. And one thing we need to understand is if any applications we are deploying anything, now we can either restrict based on roles as well, who can access, etc. And at the same time, here subscriptions also you need to check whether if you're using the right environment. So sometimes you may end up using different versions. In WebID, how it used to be, right? Like for each environment they used to give separate WebID instance. But I think now it has been in a different way. So you'll be able to see which version is active, etc. So if you have enabled multiple accounts, etc., and there could be region wise would have set up. So initially we have seen right region as Frankfurt. So because of you are building for application for a specific region, chances are that because of data you have to maintain in the same region, etc., they might insist you to use different subscriptions, etc. So if you're using multiple subscriptions, then you have to make sure you're using the which one is active and which one you're developing it, because your data goes to those data centers. If there is your customer doesn't have any what are centers they are using, then there is no problem at all. We are just making sure that we are running the in the as per the right subscription, etc. So that we can check from here where our subscription is active, etc., in this particular section. So you can bookmark this in order to revisit every time we'll use ID. So go to application when you're selecting it, it will automatically open with DevSpace Manager. Let it load. So by the time it is loading, okay, I think it's got loaded. Okay. So this is a new concept where dev spaces concept was introduced with Business Hub Studio. Primarily what we do is we have multiple application development platforms. So if you want to build exclusively on the native HANA, so you have like HANA platform provides analytical applications, etc. If you wanted to build something specific to native HANA, so we have something called specific tools and plugins. So previously we used to do on HANA Studio. So the same tools, etc., are now available on the cloud as well. So if you wanted to build specific applications like native mobile applications, there's a separate platform. And if you want to build Fiori applications, there's a separate platform. So what they have done is, so in this case for the trial, it just allows to I'll delete one. So you have to select create dev space, and here we'll just select in this case, if you see by default for Fiori, you have these all plugins available. So these are like environment. Before starting the environment itself, we are selecting which all tools and settings we need for our development. So if you wanted to deal with any calculation use, etc., like CDS use, etc., then we can enable these particular plugins. So if you want to do CDS modeling, etc., you can select these particular plugins. So specific tools and set, etc., if you want, so we can just select those new extensions in this case. So by default, these all are not checked. So if you are creating, just make sure that which area you're trying to build. So by default, it gives for adaptation project is meant for extending already existing projects. If you have Fiori app and you want to extend it, existing Fiori app, then adaptation project plugin is necessary. It is by default enabled. And it has basic launchpad module creation, MTA tools, etc. So MTA is again a new approach of building applications. So for full stack applications to build, this suggesting multi-target applications. So this is like MTA approach will deal with all the 3 layers of development. So I'll just discuss what is this MTA approach and how to build full stack applications in SAP. And other templates which are, we have seen all the templates. So the layout, flexible layout, etc., we have seen, right? Those templates, etc., will be bundled as well. So for now, we don't need all these other plugins. So if you have more plugins, generally it tends to load a little bit slow. And for specific to only cloud apps, if you want to build, so this is like SAP Cloud Business Application extension. If you select this option, you'll have the specific options related to the cloud business application space. And similarly for native HANA, like I was saying, for native HANA, if you want to build, etc., so specific tools specific to native HANA, all the modeling, etc., you can do here. And for only exclusive to the native like iOS and Android platform, then this is the SAP mobile application is the one we have to select. So we have seen in the architecture, right, there is a separate development kit. So all the development kit will be directly available if you select this option. So if you're building for Android or iOS, just select this particular SAP mobile application and create a dev space. Or if you're just trying to build traditional SAP Fiori applications or UF applications, just select SAP Fiori as a tool set for our development space. And there's one more option like basic, where no plugins are installed. All you can install manually from the extension space. So we have third-party plugins as well as SAP plugins. In Visual Studio, we have seen, right, SAP SE. We have just searched for some plugins and we install it. So that is like basic way. From basic way, you don't have any plugins installed. Manually, whichever plugin you want, you just install those plugins. So this is the other approach. So it's always now we deal with SAP Fiori. I haven't checked any plugins. Just create dev space. So I'll just give a name as any name you can just give. So every time when for trial account it just stops. So one shortcut here to remember is if you're having multiple spaces. So maybe in customer space also we might be using multiple spaces. So this ID which are you have ID, you can just copy with ID, and next to the index.html you can put a slash and then put this particular ID and you can bookmark it and you can give a name. So you'll come to know if you wanted to build native HANA applications, and then you can just bookmark this as native HANA workspace as such. So multiple IDs, if you just try to use it, it will automatically open your ID with that particular instance. You need not always, wait for your whole URL to launch as such. It will take a while to start. I've given a same name. Okay, I should have changed some of the name. Okay. So one last step we have, so that's setting the endpoint. So once we are done with that, I think rest of the applications, etc., there will not be any dependency for us. And one more thing is like this data, every 30 days, if it is ideal, etc., chance are that it will be stopped, etc. So you can whole workspace directly, what are projects in your workspace, you can download. If if you have any content directly, we can download and we can keep it handy. uh, the reason, even one more thing, we'll try to create for everything GitHub as well, so we'll not rely on this trial account. So we might, chances that your data might be missing. So any project which we are doing, it will try to push at the same time at the end of the day to GitHub, so that you can have your all repository available a copy at GitHub as well. So all the projects, however small it be, just try to ensure that for each project you're trying to link the GitHub as well. So we'll see how to link as well. So that will be a quick step. Ensure to link all projects to GitHub. So these are, you're familiar, right? Or you have already done this, or you had to do these things, activities.
I'm actually, when I created the account, right, this BT Business Application Studio,
Okay.
I got like a screen where it first pushed me to here. So I was able to
Okay.
kind of go and just mindlessly like put some, like I created a dev space and then, just did the, it had like the Fiori already preloaded. So I
Okay.
selected the Fiori, but right, and then from there I had to kind of go back. Now I am on that screen where I had to set up the
Mhm.
destination and everything. So it took me a while to kind of find out where that destination is. But
Okay.
when I was looking at one of the Open SAP class, I think very many months ago, I
Mhm.
remember first it took me to the the IDE, and then when IDE was very
Correct.
popular. So at least at that time there was an order. But now
Mhm.
this space is coming to me first, given to me first when I'm creating a
Okay.
trial account.
Okay. So I think even this process they're trying to streamline. But right, like I said, Business Hub Studio just very, even SAP is very rapidly they're changing it. The document which was released on January got now deprecated. They released one fresh one on in this March as such. So because this is completely Microsoft platform. So Visual Studio Code is based on Microsoft platform.
Mm,
For the same, like how I said, so they're like new environment how they stopped. WebID is an in-house product. WebID, when I say SAP is started building this particular tool, so they thought like having our own tool will give lots of flexibility. So SAP built this particular tool to for developing all the applications, etc. So we
mm,
can, but there were like lots of delay in getting the product rolled out. So there are like you have to build for native HANA. So HANA product development has to be done, and if your ID is not yet ready, it will take it is evolving. So see, it
mm,
is able to solve the problem of Fiori, but they're like you need other areas as well. But if you start building your ID, when would the developers actually build applications? Getting right. So there's an
mm,
adoption rate, etc., for new technologies. Now SAP introduced RAP and CAP programming model, and your ID should support to those platforms as well. And scaling the ID to meet new programming approaches, etc., it's become very tough job for SAP to manage, just like how it faced in the new environment. So it cannot compete with AWS and Google Cloud or Azure as such, because they are already well established, they are having strong foothold. But SAP is not in that space, so they are in the space of building up business application itself. So they thought like, I think that is not for today, maybe later, and they'll try to chase that particular war with the other vendors. So they thought, I think it's good if you partner with Microsoft, because they have stable tool belts. So this all the development platforms are already being used by many developers outside as well. So they thought of like, they tied up with Microsoft, and they said Visual Studio Code editor itself will use. So editor is ready. The advantage of Visual Studio Code, it supports as a decoupled way. Decoupled way. If you SAP just works on the cap what our plugins are required. If it just concentrates on building the plugin, Visual Studio Code supports any kind of plugin. So it is built in such a way that it supports React.js, it supports AngularJS, any plugin. It is like plug and play. You have that add-on installed, it has all the wizards, etc., running, just like Windows. It supports any applications, etc., right? So they have given us the common playground kind of it. That's the reason SAP is doing a rebranding exercise. So for the same Visual Studio Code, they rebranded as Business Application Studio. It's just the code base is based on Microsoft Visual Studio Code.
Mm.
That's the reason we download offline and we are playing around. If all in the local system, if you want to play around, so you can use Visual Studio Code. So they are trying calculations. SAP is it's a good move if you ask me. Though
Yeah.
initially we might have some issues, I think these all things also SAP will smoothen it. Now you had to, it's not organized, so you need some, understanding
That
in which order.
that's in that screen on the line 2, right? In the notepad you had.
Okay,
It, like how we would, the first step would be the SAP dev space, right?
correct.
Create destination. But when I just now, as you were showing, I was trying to kind of do the, creation of that account, and then it took me to the 3,
Hmm.
then to the 2, sorry, then to the
Okay,
1, and now I'm sitting up the 2. So the order has changed.
right,
It
right.
pressed, yeah. Earlier, like we have to search and find out where the business application studio is, right? Now, straight away, that screen is pretty cool. But it just went in a different order.
Understood. I think once we are clear with the, which is what to do, etc., then it would be easy. So first time when we set up these things, this will not visit again. So these are like
Mm,
one-time activity. So the first
mm,
time we'll do this activity. So we're not going to create dev space again and again. It is just the first time when you're accessing it. And similarly, the destination, if the system changes, so if you have new system which you want to
mm,
connect to the backend, so whichever system you want to consume the data from, so we'll just frequently we'll visit destination part. So this order can, come anytime in between. But BS endpoint also, if once it is set, we don't change generally. So all it would be constant unless you have, multiple subscriptions, like I said. So in this case, you have a different subscription for European region, you have a different subscription for US region, you have a different subscription. Then you might have to revisit this particular endpoint and you have to note this particular endpoint, because this
mm,
is the endpoint where we are trying to point in the business application studio stating that deploy all my business application data in this particular data center. Indirectly you are saying where is your data residing. See, all the application data is residing in now in Europe region, Frankfurt region. So that's what we are trying to say. So this endpoint indirectly dictates you where your data is going to be stored, all your application data which you are building as such. So that's what it says. As a outside layman, what we are trying to do is we are trying to link it to where our data should be hosted and which
mm,
backend system to be connected, and how we are organizing our application data. So applications, dev space, quality space, etc., production space, etc., we are organizing our applications data. So you might have lots of applications in dev space. In quality you might push a stable one. So we are organizing our applications. So tomorrow if you want to visit any old, 6 months back you worked on and it's not a stable product, so all in dev you will have all, unstable products, like all the projects which you have, like POCs kind of you might have done, or you might have, stopped in between development. But in quality, all, your working copies are really stable products. So you can always roll back to old instance. You can create a new instance. So in quality, advantage with here is they have concept called instances. What instances does is like if today you have deployed one application, so on the date, um, today says 24th. Okay, if you are deployed after 6 months, you have deployed version 2. Okay, version 2 was deployed, 6 months later. Now if you want to go back to the old copy, cloud will give you all both the copies, so you can just click on activate and this will be activated. If you face any issues with the new release and users you do not want to have, downtime, because how cloud platform ensures zero downtime is they have the concept of instances. So always you'll have multiple versions available all the time. All you need to do is enable that, so that immediately you'll have, available. Even when we try to deploy, what they do is v1 will be always active. When v2 is activated, then only v1 will be deactivated. So that means there is transition from v1 to v2. Customers won't see any gap in delay, or in, there will not be any delay. In on paper or in theoretically also there will be zero delay. So they'll see smooth new applications, etc., altogether. They're able to
right.
relate, right? So
Yeah.
this is how the advantage of, having instances and managing through cloud. So cloud really, it's really pretty much, see, adoption will 100% in within 10 years. yeah, I think on-premise will be obsolete,
Yes,
obviously,
yes,
because
absolutely. Yep.
it is only matter of time. The people are reluctant because it may not be very secure, etc. That is very much genuine. Right now, all those questions will be answered, very shortly. See, because huge customers, they rely on legacy data. See, they have like from 30, 40 years. If anybody is in business, if SAP is in business from last 40 years, so still they might have some records data which are hosted on premise. They cannot overnight bring them to cloud as well. Okay, so still they might maintain those, but for the new process, definitely they'll adopt newer technologies, right? So that might still be there, but it becomes, the number of users using those systems will be pretty much low.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I agree.
So here we are having pretty much very so many advantages. So if you see all now currently they are trying to experiment with Active Directory is one such service. There's like no impact. See, you don't have any impact as such. So even companies, what they're trying to do is they are trying to do with some services, not all services, but some services. But that from some services it will expand to using completely dedicated all the cloud based services. So here scaling is, you see, if you see there's one more problem as for a developer community as well. Currently, if you SAP developer community is solely 80% of the use cases have for managing SAP systems. You could have a basis team, you have a functional team, you have a number of SAP. If you have one SAP system, you definitely have a team of 5 to 10 people. Okay, if everything goes to cloud, everything is managed by few people, not many people.
Hmm.
You don't need huge resources as well,
Yeah.
but there will be different kind of use cases. I'm not sure as on date, but because see, maintaining everything is remote. You need not to maintain all you have to focus is on building applications, etc. You need not to worry about managing the systems because managing
Exactly.
systems are on
Yeah.
autopilot.
Yeah.
Today you want a resource as you have, suppose you have one, you are suppose you acquired a new company of 2 lakh people. So if you want to manage the data of everything, all you need to do is you have to increase your subscription or volume. So now, if so far your employee strength is supposed for 2 lakh, you are having 3 lakh subscription accounts active, etc. All you have to do is in advance, just okay, from next month onwards I just need to scale up to 4 lakhs. All they do is from the cloud you can easily scale up your server capacity, etc. So there are like two kinds of scaling, so horizontal and vertical scaling as such. So systems, etc., can be increased overnight. So
Yeah.
just from tomorrow you can do it. So but in the on-premise space it takes at least 6 months time for to meet that particular need as such, because it's not so easy. You might acquired company could be in different altogether environment, and moving them to your environment, and it could be have lots of dependencies, but the dependence
Yeah.
will be gone if you are in cloud, because moving from one cloud to other cloud is very easy. They have the tools, etc., available. So they have
Right.
hyperscalers. Using hyperscalers they'll try to move from one cloud to other cloud.
Yeah.
Think this business study is loading. So now we understood, right? So I think it got loaded. So dev space we have got ready, destination ready. Endpoint we'll now try to link it to our application. So I'm just, if you are logged in here, mm, so let it load. I think it will take some time to load. So you can,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I mean, see here again, it's showing that. No, actually, I take that back. I'm seeing my own screen. Sorry.
Okay. So here, this is here. So you can type command cf login. So I have just selected view and then find command. So find command here you can type cf login. So when you say CF login, it will show you like login to Cloud Foundry. So Cloud Foundry is nothing but our business technology platform. So this is one way. Or if you are having on the base, if after all plugins got installed, you'll see on the bottom this RNA space in CF have not been set. On the bottom, if you see the purple color, so here you have an option. So you can click on this as well, and this will try to launch you one window where it will prompt you to give the API endpoint. See now if you see the moment I click it, it automatically fetches one API endpoint. So here you need to enter the API endpoint which we have noted down previously. So this is the
Mm.
same API endpoint. So this is a place where we are trying to link our business application studio with our cloud foundry space. So after entering this endpoint, just press enter. It will ask you to validate, authenticate. So you can just give your email ID, password which you use to register for your business technology platform. Just log in with. Okay. So now, if you have multiple spaces, so if you see in my case, I have multiple instances. So sub accounts, I have 2 accounts. So it is prompting me which account to choose as such. So if you have multiple instances, you have to just select one instance. So in your case, I think it will just show just trial. If you have it, just select that particular instance. So now, what are dev spaces which we created? Ideally, all the dev spaces should be visible here. If you're not able to see this, that means your dev space which you created in your trial are not yet created, or you have to just refresh once your page. Okay, so if they do not appear, just try to repeat the steps again. So here our dev space should be visible. So this is a place where we'll try to deploy all our applications. So now I'm just selecting as dev, and once I select, it should say on the message like organization space have been set. If you see on the bottom, it says now it is targeting CF, means Cloud Foundry, to this particular instance. So if you want to change and deploy to quality space, etc., once again you have to click on this, and just have to select. It will be auto locked in, so you can just change the environment to quality. So this is as simple as a few clicks. So we are setting this now. If you see on the footer, it shows now as quality. If you're able to see, I'll just zoom it a little. No, I think it so footer is not it. Okay, yeah. So here it should say the which space you are saying. Currently it is
Mm.
pointing. You have to notice this particular information. So this is
Uh,
key.
yeah, I'm able to
Because
see it now.
yeah. So we might be wrongly pushing into the wrong environment. So we should be very
Mm.
careful in actual development. So always make sure you select whichever environment you are trying to point to. Just make sure it is pointing to the right
Mm.
environment as such. So this is the steps we'll do for one-time activity. So I think once you have these things ready, I think we are good.
Yeah, I think I'm able to like sort of like catch up here. I have both business application studio and the connection, everything set up.
Okay. Okay, great. So I think you are on page till here. So if you see, notice if you have multiple instances, this is what I'm trying to say. So this is the ID which we are using it here. So this
Mm.
ID. So if you bookmark it this way, so whichever instance you're trying to use, you can just bookmark with, and you can give one name as a. So for this, I'll just name it as a different name. So right, dev copy or something. Dev, or I'll say as multi instance. It's free. I mean, whatever you wanted to name it, you just name it. So I have already same name with Fiori. I should have given different name. So ID, in order to understand, I'm just trying to set.
In Fiori, I just gave it a very stupid name. I just gave like dev.
Fine, anything name is fine. There's nothing to worry. So it's naming conventions in cloud space. It doesn't matter at all. So it's just parking where you want to park, etc. So it is. See, even this concept is common across all the platforms. I have seen even in IBM Cloud. So the concept around everywhere is the same. So almost I think all the industry is going in this single direction when in
Mm.
terms of managing the in the cloud environment. The
Mm.
names kind of they are very much flexible. Previously, an on-premise used to have specific jargons and etc. I think here it is like common way. They are not very much particular on now. You no longer they call it as dev quality. You can call it your own whatever name you want to give. You can do name space. So we are particular like dev space, quality space, etc. So I just use as name conventions. But here you're free to use whatever name you want, as long as it is understandable that these all are your dev copies. That's good. So I think this. Let me reload this. Uh, This looks good. I think one last step. Let me see. So GitHub, yes. So now we have the endpoint. What we'll do is first we'll test this particular service. So now we have added destination, right? But we are not sure whether this destination, we are able to successfully connect. So we'll do a quick, Fiori element application or freestyle application, and we'll try to see if connection is, properly established, etc. So then we'll try to push that particular code to, GitHub. So that way we can have double check that our destination is properly, connected, and then they are working. So before this, just we'll add one more. So just create, sample application and test for connection. Okay, so both the things will be verified, whether it's properly linked, etc. And then we'll be able to ensure that it is working fine. These are like tools check. So you can on the welcome page, I think wait for this particular every time when you open it, so it will check any new updates are available for the plugins. So we created dev space, right? So some tools etc. were pre-default we have it. That's the reason if you're not using those tools, do not check them, because every time when you load, it will try to check for any new update is available, and we will try to install the latest one. So that will delay a little bit of load time. I think it's taking time, so I'll go to find command. You can type. So here, create a module. I think still it's installing, I think. Actually, this has to still load. I think it is waiting for to load. Here, like we have seen, right? This is extension. So if any extensions we have, so we can install other extensions as well. I think it's still loading, I said. So it's unable to find Fiori tools. So if you see the same kind of extensions, etc., we have it here. So all the extensions, etc., it is a like third-party extensions. So the one which we create from here dev space are SAP provided extensions. So they are like clear differentiation. So if you search here, you might end up with using the some third-party SAP plugin. It might still work, but the security patches, etc., SAP may not be supporting it. So that's the reason they have separated complete plugins part, and they have created this concept called dev spaces, where you select which environment to do. So this way SAP has control of what plugins customers are using as well. So this is a default way. So you can still use any other tools whichever are relevant for your workspace, etc. You can install any particular tools. Here we can, like I said, you want to do any development in any other platform also, this supports. So that's the reason a scale of programming language, whichever programming language a developer wants to use. So all now Business Studio supports. So they need not to rely on any single platform. So for all developments, now Business Studio it got scaled up. So the point which why SAP moved to this particular from WebID to Business Studio is this is the reason. So it's scaling to all programming languages. When the AWS cloud etc. is also scalable to all scenarios. So it's a decoupled way of building applications. Think this still it is not.
It says like project created, like I try to like make like how you showed in the Visual Studio, right? So I followed the same step to create like a quick app, but it says it created, but I don't see it in the left in
Okay,
that.
you have to click on File, Open Workspace, and
Uh,
then here you'll have your projects. So the whichever project you have given a name, try to select the name and then click on Open. Just on the file, go to Open Workspace.
and then projects. Oh yeah,
Yes,
saw
the
it.
projects you'll have. So you can just select the project. So ideally, I think for me it is taking time. Let me try to start one more instance. Not sure. I think this is taking time for the first time because just now I created. Um, it's not able
Yeah,
yet. Uh,
yesterday it was my turn. It wasn't connecting at all.
so I have already existing old one. So here I have, it's been I have been using from quite some time. So let me start this. So if you have, probably you can share your screen. You can, all you have to do is you have to run the application and see whether it is working or not. So basic check we are doing it. So if it is working, then we are on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's working here. Let's see.
Just you have to select preview, right click the project, select preview application, and it should run.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's I don't know if you can see.
Yes, I can see now. Okay.
So
Now select web app folder and just right click it and select preview application. Yes. So you can just select the first point. Yes. Start Fiori, run. Yes. Yes. So here, if you see, notice with there we had installed Node.js, etc. Here Node.js, etc. pre-installed already. So all the comments, etc. will straight away they work as well. So it got launched. So yes, you can just select adapt filters and just select some columns, etc. Yes, yes. Select all this. Select and go. So if we have, yes, so data if it is means our
yeah,
destination is
yeah,
working
yeah.
fine. So this is a quick check way, to understand that our destination is working or not. So now our destination is correctly working. And so
Right,
any applications, etc., we can now start using this building. And even your dev space there, it should point to quality of dev, etc. Then our tools, etc., are ready now. So all we need to do is we can play around with it.
right.
So you can use the template now to create all. In application development guide, I have given some 6 to 7 services, OData services, which are
Yes.
running on ESY system. So for which template to use, if you just open that developer guide, there I have mentioned for master detail flexible layout, which OData service is suitable because the
Mm,
data, underlying data is relevant for those particular templates. So for each template have specific annotations, etc. if at all required. So you'll find those services useful. So you can just refer to that and you can create these wizard based applications. And there is I mean thing I need not to explain. So you can just select the OData service and relevant project, etc. So I'll walk you
okay.
through some key steps which the during wizard, if you select certain options, what cascading effect it could have on your whole project. So that we'll try to understand. So now this is running on mock Fiori launchpad. So this is all, it's getting mimicked as a real Fiori launchpad,
Mm,
right? So this is like a sandbox environment for testing our applications, how it really looks if integrated in a real sandbox. Real Fiori launchpad, how it. So all these are like dummy instances, which are,
yeah.
just mimicked like as a real Fiori launchpad. So
Got,
I think now we understood the quick setup thing. So what we'll do is I think this is good. I think we need not to,
yeah.
these are the essential steps. Whenever you're
Yes.
hanging, just remember to add destination, then test one sample application so that this connection part will be clear.
So
Just
let's say if we had done something and then we forgot to like add a parameter or something, like when we're creating the connection, right? We can always go back and edit it, right?
yes, yes, yes. You
Okay.
can go back, edit and modify it. So you'll come to know. So there was multiple channels earlier in WebID. So directly you could define the destination from WebID. Okay.
Mm,
So like you were asking previously, right? So previously in WebID, you need not go to cloud. cockpit and define a destination. From WebID itself, there is an option to create a destination. So it used to just go and sit in the cloud cockpit. But I think that particular integrations are still at a relatively new now.
Mm.
So right now, anything you have to go to cockpit, then edit the properties. Okay. Because I've
Mm.
seen in one of the customer scenario, because I'm still not yet using in my business applications for Business Hub Studio. So we are still
Okay.
using the old one, and the basis are they are actually configuring all the destinations. So whichever system you want, they are configuring the destinations. And the moment you open Business Hub Studio, straight away you are having all the environments available. So OData service, when you select a wizard, you have the ready-made whichever system your developers should have access. They are providing the access to those systems. So that's how they are managing it. If that's the case, you need not to worry about setting up destinations as well.
Mm.
Okay. Now just go to your GitHub account. Just try to create one repository. So we'll see how to link this particular. I think you can go to your web Business Hub Studio.
Oh, here.
Okay. Yeah. So here this project now we'll try to link with Git. So if you see you have clone Git option. So you keep it that on handy. So not yet. So go to GitHub first. Create a repository name. Yes, you can just
Perfect.
That's okay. Take your time. See if your email ID you have used a username as
I had changed it today because I was struggling with some of the JavaScript and I wanted to peek into what you did in that calculator and then wait
okay.
a minute, I think I may have it will now yell at me that oh there you go. Great.
You keep note of this all. Problem is we'll frequently use to connect to every project. We'll go here. We'll create a repository. We'll try to link to a project. Even the same ESY system credentials as well. We'll keep for every audit says when you're creating a project, it will ask for authentication. So
mm.
we'll try to use those credentials. So this one like these credentials we'll use quite frequently.
Woo, I'm here. Okay.
Great. So just create one more. Just click on plus and create a new repository. No, keep this as is.
Uh-huh.
So let's not touch this. So just create one more repository.
Here.
Yes, yes, yes. Plus icon, new repository. Give it a name, which are application like demo app. You can say that's demo app. So we are just doing a demo check. ES5 demo check or something. You can give. Okay.
Yeah,
Just yes.
it's fine. Okay.
Just uh, you can just create on confirm or you can give a description. Fine. Test application. So these all are like references for us. So going forward after 6 months down the lane, if we have to, check for certain things, so it could be simple application or some medium scale application. We'll have some reference. Okay, this is a repository which we'll have to refer. You can probably document on your on the home, which your main master you have created. There you can document which repository, what the code contents in it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very new to the GitHub, so um hopefully I'm doing this right.
Correct, correct. It's correct. You can just click on create. So copy that particular on the top you have the your git repository, right? It's just you have to copy that. So if you see there are like few commands given here, so just copy it. So these commands itself you have to do it in your BAS. So they're like on the command line you can follow these particular guidelines or you can follow the steps which I have outlined in the application developer guide as well. Okay.
Mm.
So these steps we are going to do there. So
Including echo.
echo you can
Oh,
remove it. That is just adding the documentation file. You can even remove that readme.md step as well. That is just a documentation. So it will automatically create that readme file for you.
mm. So yeah, so then should I go
Yes, just
here?
go to Business Office Studio, correct? So you open a notepad, keep those steps ready, and you have to
Yes.
use those steps here sequentially. So now we are trying to link our GitHub repository to Business Hub Studio. You're getting right. First we link the ES5 destination and then Cloud Foundry account. Now we are linking our GitHub account to Business App Studio. So click on right click and click on new terminal, web app, select web app, right click and select new terminal, open in terminal, correct. Now here you have to run your comments. Make sure you're always, it should point to your project. So web app here it's pointing to. If it's points to the wrong folder, it will not be able to link the whole project structure. Okay, if you are selecting wrong folder, it will only some of the files will be pushed to you into your GitHub.
Okay, got it.
So we have to make sure that web app is a folder, because web app contains all our views, etc., controllers, etc. So here now you have to just do git init, and you can follow the sequence of steps. Just do git init first. Yes, enter. And now it says repository now empty. There is no repository, so we have to follow those steps.
So the next command that I copied, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
And then if create, sorry, if we create any number of project, will it also keep pushing it? Like here on the left corner, we may have project 2, project 3, project 4. Do we have to do it for individual?
Yes, you have to do it. So there are like multiple things. The problem is, if in the same Git repository, if you push later on, if you want to see, if you maintain it this way, you can share this particular code, just this particular URL you can share. They can immediately use clone option to pull all of your code. So it's easy for the second user, but for the first user, it is really, they have to do all the legwork. Yeah, and one more thing to remember is here always open single project. Do not open multiple projects in the workspace, because the run configurations are getting affected. So it's still if whenever you are use open workspace, like how you selected project 1. So one project at a time. Always make sure to have one project at a time. Open workspace, select whichever project, because your Git panel supports only single repository at a time. It doesn't support multiple repositories. Suppose if you are using one project, you are linking one Git repository. Chance that for the second project also it might be pointing to the same repository. Then your code gets messed up in your GitHub. Okay, if you're having single project, it always knows that which project has to be pointed to which Git repository. Okay. So that README file you can ignore. README file is not required because we have skipped the echo step, right? So that's the reason it may not come. So yeah, you can do that. So it's yeah, you have to first run these commands, because we haven't logged in from Business App Studio. So use these particular steps, copy the above step, git config global user.email, and give your GitHub username, email. Yes, copy. So it is asking you to first log in, then try to, we'll know which repository to link, kind of thing. So in that name, you have to give your email ID. Okay. Within double quotes, you have to just remove the double quotes, and you can just give your.
Okay, so I'm just
GitHub email ID.
I have to do. I'm thinking this is a notepad. Oh, this has to be the ID for the.
No, not. So I think it just picked up. You can just select enter.
Okay.
Now try to give the second line command where you say username. What's your GitHub username? Right. So now you can run the command again. So git commit as such. So the same command you can just try. Right. So initial commit it has done, but some you are able to see you, and some there is no file. So what he's saying is some of the files it has done it, but some of the folders they did not commit. Now you can do the next step.
Sure. Oops. This is the main.
So we are creating a branch. So okay, fine. You can move on to the next step. So it might have created with a master name. So default when we are committing it, it can create a default branch as well. Just move on to the next step.
Git remote. This is.
Yeah. Now you clone repository which you have. No. You have to give the URL.
I'm so sorry.
And the repository URL. Now we have to say that this is the URL where you have to link the URL. Now we have
Right.
logged in, right? Now you have to say where to link your this particular project structure. So that
Right.
URL about the GitHub URL. Yes.
Oh, this one right there.
Yes,
Yes.
correct. Repository. So we have to say this particular.
And so I put it under.
Just paste it. You can just paste it. That's it. Git remote add origin. Yes. Now enter. Okay. Now it's got link. Now you can follow the next step now. The last final step. I think it should be push.
Yeah. This might give an error too, maybe. I don't know. Because, yeah,
Okay.
I think that main thing is.
Yeah, you can say as master. You can say git origin master. Rename to master master. Yes. Okay. Now fine. We have linked in, right? So now come to the left side there where it shows as 12. Right. No, keep it that way. We'll see. So there is we have one tool now. Once you have logged in from command prompt, initial remote link, etc., then we have an option to use the wizard as well. So you have on the left side you have this 12 number count it is showing, right? No, the workspace where you're selecting extensions, etc. We are selecting plugin side.
Oh, yeah.
There, the 12 number 12.
Oh, yes.
So this is your all your git files, etc., which are got pushed, etc. Now once you first time you have to do git init, etc., and you have to set login, and then you have to set your remote. After that, you can use this particular panel because it now identifies your where your remote URL is and what actions you have to do. Now you can just click on here. Changes are there, right? So just go to the changes. This git panel itself, 12 you're able to see, right? There on the change, no, on the changes tab within this itself. Yes. There on the right, you have to click on plus.
Oh
Plus
my
icon. So what this does is it does staged. So all are appended. A means append, etc. So all the any changes, if you want to push, first you have to do a step called staging. Staging means all the files are now ready to be pushed to GitHub. So which all files you want to push to GitHub, you can specify as well. So by default, we'll select all as a staging option. So if you want to skip certain files, like you do not want certain files to be pushed, then you can uncheck which files to be. So just the minus, correct. So you have to just uncheck which are the files you do not want to be appended. So now you can give the message, whatever the message. So first of all, now today you have done some changes. So I have built a form. So you can do a documentation. So if tomorrow, if you are building application, you're stuck, you can revert back to this particular commit. We call it as commit. So whatever name you have given, you can revert back all your code to that particular stage. So that's the advantage of GitHub. So anytime you want to roll back, you can roll back. Anytime you want to create multiple copies, we'll create branches and we'll make it a different copy. Okay, it gives us flexibility in managing our code. Just give a name now on the message. There it says message, right? So enter some comment as first commit on this Git panel itself, not on the console. About stage changes, you'll see a message box, a text box.
Oh, here?
Just below that, your message press Ctrl Enter, it shows, right? Just below that, edit and above stage changes. In between, you're checking above and below. There's a text, a huge text message.
This is gonna be difficult.
Just above the stage changes. So just above stage.
Here,
yeah,
yes,
that's
here.
it. You have to enter there. Just enter first commit. So this is the area where you give your message. So what name you want to give to for all these changes. So you can give a nice description there. Okay. So in GitHub we are entering, right, what changes, etc. So same thing. So this will flow to that area.
Okay.
You just say first commit or something. So you're first time you're pushing into, right? You can say first commit. Yeah, you can select the tick mark above so that you are good. Yes, correct. Now see it got pushed. All the changes got pushed.
Oh, nice. Look at that tiny icon.
Now, if you want to retrieve anything, you have to give the three dots are there, right? On the same header. Right, a tick button you have selected, no, on the top, on the top tick button where you selected, there you see, yeah, there. So here you'll get options of fetch, pull, etc. So if
Oh.
you wanted to pull anything from GitHub, you can pull it. If you want to push to GitHub, the local code, you can push it.
Mm.
So this is a tool. So once you have defined from command prompt what is your remote repository, for each of the repository you can play around with. You can either pull the changes from the GitHub. So if your local version got corrupted, you can always have a copy which you can refer to, where you can directly pull it. So one easy way for anybody to use second time is just come back on the left side, click on welcome page. You have the tab FLB sandbox, you have, right, the page which code editor opened. So you have the first page, welcome.
Uh-huh.
So here if you just scroll down little bit down, so you have clone repository option tile. Start template is one option. Second option, just scroll down little.
There. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that option you have to select. So when anybody uses clone repository option, if not you, it's yourself, you wanted to try now, you can select clone repository. Just click on clone repository, and you have to give your repository URL. Now you wanted to use demo app, so that app URL you have to just place it here. Then you can pull a complete code from the GitHub itself. So you need not to create any fresh project, etc. This will be your easy way to get started. You just clone it. No, you need not to. You can just give the complete repository URL. Just go to your GitHub. Just copy the repository URL and you can paste it.
Which is this one or this?
URL. No, this is a URL. So always when you say repository, you have to use this full URL, github.com/demo ES5. So for every repository, when you wanted to load that code from GitHub directly, use clone option, provide the URL, and you can just, it might ask you to authenticate whether you have authorization or not.
Mm.
See, it asks for username password on top. So this is a wizard way. So previously we used command prompt. Now using wizard, we are trying to enter a username, password, etc.
So then this is like we're bringing it from the Git and putting it here.
Correct.
Got it. And then from here to there we go with this
tool. Correct. So this is Git extension. So, but the first time for linking, currently the tool doesn't support. That's the reason we have to use command steps, where you have Git init is like it is initializing it. Then the second step which you have done is, you're setting the remote user URL. Before that, it was asking for you, what is your username? So just authenticate yourself. Then we have given the remote URL, and then all we did was using our Git panel, we'll try to push the thing. You can just give your username, Git username, etc. And now try reloading this page. Just reload this page. Okay. So okay, it's not yet published. Just go back there. Go to our dev editor. So I think still okay. Here you can log in. If you log in, it will come to this step. You can close it. You can click on back cancel. You can just escape. You can press to cancel.
So if I need to pull this, can I?
Yes, you can pull. You have on the footer as well. So if you go on the footer as well, you have option. You see there is a master. On the footer, your Cloud Foundry where we link, right? Blue color ribbon on the footer. So target, yeah, there you see master. So master is our branch. Okay.
Master reminded me of a movie.
Right. Yeah, you can click on that. So if you see here, you can create branch, etc., sub branch, etc. So we create a master branch. On the next, there's a cloud icon next to master, and don't select it. So if you click on a cloud icon, it will point you to the remote repository. So click on that. So yes, click on OK. So publish changes. So you have to just log into once GitHub again.
Using the GitHub. This is where I kind of
GitHub.
get confused.
GitHub. Yeah. It will ask only for the first time itself. So because we are first time we are trying to connect to GitHub, it doesn't know whether which user to use, etc. Save as plain text in dev space. Select the first option so that it will be remembering always. So you need not to enter every time the username, password, etc.
Got it. Wow, who would have thought? Yeah.
That refresh button it came. See, no, anytime you just click on refresh, just click on refresh. So it always publishes the changes directly, automatically.
Got it.
So you just
So,
check now, you have refresh it, GitHub. Now you have to see all
oh,
your changes here.
yeah.
You
Oh,
got
there it is.
so perfect. So
Go.
you are done. See, this is how every time you will manage your all your projects. So you have a clean copy of all your projects. That's the reason day one I mentioned it. How many ever repositories you have in your GitHub? That is your
Mhm.
mastering level of UFI.
Got it.
How many projects you are do, you try to link it and deploy. That means this is a like a live proof that you have worked on this particular scenario. So if you
Right.
are even I have to check it, I just do the clone option. I'll see how you are actually doing the access, etc. So I can just look at your code and I can see what's your working copy, everything. If any
Mm-hmm.
issues are there also, I'll be able to track everything. Okay.
Perfect. Now I understand the value of GitHub. Yeah.
So it's like multiple advances. Like any project you have parked for long back, you can continue resume at that point of time. You can
Mm-hmm.
resume the working on that part. When multiple people can, if you give access, now you have set as private. If you add collaborator, so multiple people can start publishing. Every time when you're trying to make a changes, they'll come to know that some new changes are there. They'll first do the pull option and they'll start working on that copy. So always
Mm-hmm.
both of you will have same copy.
Got it.
If you do not want to have any dependency, there is one more way to create separate branches. So you can create your own branch and I can create my own branch. When both of our changes are ready, we can do a merge. So both branches will
Mm-hmm.
be merged and will be made into a single version.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives us flexibility to for one single project, multiple people can work simultaneously and can maintain and manage different versions. So you can maintain old version, you can maintain new version. Whenever you
Mm-hmm.
want, you can pull it up. This is completely free, GitHub.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So now we understood this concept. So you can note this point. Now probably let me share my screen quickly.
Mm-hmm. Should I end my? Uh,
No, I'll just share. It will
okay.
automatically. So today we try to see dev space and then we create destination. So endpoint. Then sample app we tested it. So it was running and we had GitHub as well up and running, right? So we have successfully done the basic tools check.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tools check is done and we have everything ready. Let's me quickly see. So this step once we are done, that means all tools are available. So quick snapshot of what all SAP recommends. So for what are the Fiori development tools and technologies? This SAP recommends. So to have these tools ready for building or developing. So just a quick recap of what we have. So for in this case, we have for development, we have to use Business Hub Studio. Now, currently we have Business Hub Studio access. So we were able to do one basic application. So we are going to do all the new applications based on Business Hub Studio, right? One more point we understood is any old projects which are developed in WebID, you have to migrate. So if you explore in the application, you have on the command palette, you can say migrate applications option. So you have selected command view where we are entering the commands, right? So control shift P you can select and then enter migrate. Then it will show you the option to migrate. So if you're having any old projects in Business Hub Studio, you can migrate old projects to new project and you can start working on it. That is one thing we have to do for older applications. For new applications, we know that we have to use this. And then UI technology wise, it is SAP UFI framework, which is we are going to use for all our Fiori apps. Then we have two types of applications building approaches. One is elements, which we call it as low code approach, and another is Fiori tools, nothing but freestyle approach. Where freestyle approach, we using uh, controls, etc. We build the tags, etc. We'll using those tags, etc. We'll try to build a complete application. So custom UF applications, are everything, most of the scenarios, medium to complex scale, we'll try to use Fiori freestyle approach as a wizard. And if you want to have a quick app within a day or two with least effort, all you need is a template. The template, whatever template shows exact output. If you need it, you can select Fiori elements and you can select the OData service. So these are the two approaches SAP recommends. And
Mm-hmm.
and in the space of OData service, so this is about UI. In the OData service, what are the SAP recommends? SAP SCGW is a traditional way of building OData services. There are like new areas in the cloud space. So BAS is a cloud tool. Similarly, on the cloud space, RAP and CAP are new ways of building OData services. So RESTful application programming is meant for SAP S4HANA. If you are using S4HANA, RESTful application programming is the cloud approach of building OData services. On-premise approach is SCGW. Cloud approach is RESTful application programming. Clear?
Mm.
It is not yet mature, but that is a cloud way of doing it. So how we are doing on-premise for UFI, you want to do, you can use Visual Studio Code. On the cloud, you use Business Application Studio. Likewise, for the on-premise, you use OData, you will be using SCGW transaction. For the cloud, you will be using RESTful application programming. And other than Fiori applications or other than S4 HANA product, we have lots of other products, right? Ariba, you have success factors, all the cloud products. For any of these cloud platforms, other than SAP's flagship product, if you want to build, the approach you have to follow is cloud application programming model, CAP. Okay, CAP gives you all the tools required to build OData service on the cloud, which can be leveraged for non-SAP or other SAP products. So these are like new approaches or new technologies which SAP is promoting it. So we're not sure how long they'll be sustaining or whether they'll be all the more remote. See, SAP coins new services technologies, but they may not be mainstream. Right now, Fiori is mainstream, SCW is mainstream, but these RAP and CAP, I'm not sure. But this is the direction of SAP. Clear? And we have seen even mobile SDK in the business dev space. We have seen if you want to build for iOS or Android in BS, you'll select those mobile plugins. So instead of Fiori, we have to select mobile as a dev space. So here we have seen, right? I think I closed that window. Where the dev spaces, we are selecting whether native HANA development plugins are required or whether mobile iOS plugins are required. So we have to select those particular plugins in order to work on specific scenarios specific to only iOS or Android scenarios. Okay, the process is same. We have to choose the right plugins and libraries. So you same wizards will be available there as well. Only thing is the tools and sets will be changing. That's it. And likewise for Copilot, the AI chatbot assistant, there are like conversational AI experience. There is, in design guidelines, we have seen the guidelines part where we have dedicated space for where guidelines are provided. But there is no development kit as such available as on date because it is very much in-house. It's going on. Even very little space, where we cannot actually modify those things. All SAP is taking care. So SAP is completely owning the development of this particular Copilot features. I mean,
they
there is
have
no
a class
outside.
on robotic process or automation or something, right? They had a class on that in OpenSAP.
Yes, yes. So,
Is that related to this?
no, it's not related to this. So robotic process automation RPA tools are many tools are there outside as well. So UiPath, and other tools and technologies are also there. SAP is also testing in those areas as well. Okay. So
Also,
SAP tries out many teams.
Sorry,
Yes, yes.
so no OpenSAP classes on these conversational AI yet, right? Because of they're still developing it internally.
Correct. As on date, there is no, I mean, AI related topics are there, but not related to the Copilot conversational AI. See, still it is, the use case, etc. Also like many few apps. See, unless SAP has for all the 12,000 apps, it is able to deliver it, it will not promote it. Okay, it will still be, in the small scale in the in-house. So currently, how, it's like for the audience, limited audience, they are trying to show that for one or two apps only, currently those features are available. See, unless you have it for all the apps, SAP will not promote it. Okay. Once they are sure on it, then they'll give access to developers to tweak and modify our plugins. They'll ask us to create plugins or to tweak the AI assistant, etc. Now, currently, Fiori apps it has built, and it's asking us to build custom apps and to tweak as well, right? So now AI is still in the phase of internal R&D, etc. You can say. So you can know about it and you can maybe configure it, but you cannot actually modify any the code snippets related to that particular area. There is nothing as such available out for the developer community. Okay. So, and one more area is like UI adaptation and extension. So all the standard Fiori apps, adaptation project while plugin, I have informed that we have adaptation plugin by default available. So to extend any existing Fiori apps, so you have already configured Fiori app. Now you want to extend it. Customer asks you to extend it. So in order to extend, we use adaptation approach. So adaptation approach is very easy approach to follow, and we'll see and we'll talk about in later classes. So currently we have this particular tool as well available in BAS, right? So now we
Mm.
have all the platforms. We know what are the latest platforms available as well. And for S4HANA, ABAP RESTful programming is a new approach, and for cloud platform, CAP is a new approach. Whether you are using old or new, SGW is always your go-to for OData services. So these are the latest in Fiori space, the tools and etc. I think with this, and to learn exclusively these new approaches, OpenSAP, both courses are available. From last 6 months, they are very actively running. Even the developers, number of developers who are familiar with these areas are also very less. Maybe in you can count in less than 1,000 as such. So RAP and CAP are very new models of building on the cloud OData services. Okay, so we have, I mean, SAP always promotes. So if you want to check on this on the Open SAP also, you can check on these areas. And I think this is it for today. Tomorrow no, I think we have tools, everything ready. We can start with some of the concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions so far? I think.
So I think I'm good. Try to recap and